2024 bid seal first drive, look out, Tesla Model 3? With its sharp design and quick acceleration, this Chinese EV wants to take a share from Tesla and other sports sedans. Sedans aren't as hot as they once were in the United States, but the rest of the world still buys them in big numbers. The 2024 BYD Seal might not make as many waves if it launched in the US, but across the world, this sedan is making a big statement, and it wants to nab a share from the Tesla Model 3. More than that, though, BYD executives at the Seal's local launch in Mexico consider it a potential option even for buyers looking into sports sedans like the BMW M3. And after spending a day driving it on the highways around Mexico City, it's easy to see why, and why BYD is making huge gains against Tesla's EV sales numbers. Besides its polished design, BYD claims the all-wheel drive, dual-motor Seal can go from 0 to 62 miles per hour, 100 kilometers per hour, in 3.8 seconds and can cover 323 miles on a single charge thanks to its 82.6 kilowatt-hour battery. The single-motor, rear-drive base model can cover 285 miles with its 61.4 kilowatt-hour battery and reaches 62 miles per hour in 7.5 seconds, according to BYD. We sampled both models on the track, but we spent most of our time driving the RWD model on twisty highways surrounding Mexico City, and we quickly discovered the Seal can give the Model 3 and other European cars a run for their money. For those not familiar, BYD is a Chinese automaker and the largest producer of EVs and PHEVs in the world. What once started as a company to make batteries for phones has been transformed into a big disruptor of the automotive industry, and although it's been making cars for decades, BYD now only builds PHEVs and EVs. The brand recently started expanding outside of China, and it's now in Europe, Mexico, Brazil, and other markets in Asia and the Americas. Although it has a plant in northern Los Angeles County where it builds buses, BYD currently has no intention to enter the US market with passenger vehicles. After our documentary, Motor Trend Investigates, China's Big Bet on Mexico, BYD invited us to the Seal's launch in Mexico, where the brand has ambitious plans for the year to come. Our first impression after sitting in the driver's seat was to be wowed by the quality and technology the designers and engineers placed in the interior. Like other BYDs, the Seal has a 15.6-inch touchscreen that can rotate to provide either a landscape or portrait orientation. A smaller but still significantly sizable screen for the driver sits behind the steering wheel and acts as a digital instrument cluster. All-wheel drive versions come with a head-up display, but RWD variants don't. Everywhere you touch, there's a premium feel, even in the places where you wouldn't place your hand frequently. From the quilted leather seats to the suede on the door panels, the cabin feels plush and special. The small shifter takes a page from BMW's crystal lever, but the cabin feels original and like nothing we've seen before. The air vents appear as though they've been stretched from the A-pillars to the center screen, creating a wider and more spacious look for the dashboard. Like other EVs, the roof is mostly glass, but it can be covered to provide shade to occupants in the vehicle. Because the BYD Seal was conceived as an EV from the start, its interior is airy and lacks a drivetrain hump, which means better legroom overall. Passengers seated in the second row will have enough headroom despite the fastback roof, but the smaller shoulder and hip room will likely make 3 adults fit cozily. While the technology is modern and even a bit ahead of other manufacturers based in the US, we were let down by some of the pixelated logos on the screen. Furthermore, Apple CarPlay and Android Auto are only available via a wired connection. Just like Tesla's, the infotainment screen is the car's command center. Everything from the safety systems to the AC is controlled through there, but unlike Tesla's, the Seal should feel familiar to those coming from other automakers. There's a push-button start, the air vents are adjusted manually, and the buttons to adjust the side view mirrors are located on the driver's door panel. Let's look at the numbers. The dual-motor car makes 523 horsepower and 494 pounds-to-foot of torque. That's more than the 450 horsepower and 471 pounds-to-foot the 2023 Tesla Model 3 Performance makes. We haven't been able to instrumented test any BYD, so we'll have to go with the manufacturer's estimates of 0 to 62 miles per hour in 3.8 seconds. The Model 3, on the other hand, gets to 60 miles per hour in as quick as 3.1 seconds per our equipment. Where the Model 3 has a greater advantages with the rear drive model. The Seal RWD makes 201 horsepower and 229 pounds-to-foot of torque. The Model 3 RWD has 259 horsepower and 307 pounds-to-foot of torque on tap. Other global markets might get a more powerful version of the Seal RWD with the larger battery pack, but we're going to focus on the Mexico spec Seal. Our time with the AWD model was brief. We were only able to do a short loop around a small track, followed by a high-speed turn with wet pavement. It was difficult to get a full review of the car after this short experience, but what surprised us the most is how quick it feels. Both electric motors deliver the power to the wheels in a very linear way. Power delivery is quick, but it won't slam your head against the headrest when going full acceleration. Instead, you feel an initial push that's continuous and doesn't seem to let off. The tires also show good grip, and we didn't hear any squeaks as we were rolling from a stop. It was brief, but after this initial taste, we could already tell the Seal isn't just targeting the Model 3, it's going against other sports sedans, regardless of their propulsion system. The dual-motor model delivered a fun experience, and with all that punch plus a solid chassis, it puts up a good fight against the BMW M3, Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio, and Mercedes-AMG C43. We had plenty of time with the rear-drive Seal. The difference between the cars is night and day, but the single-motor Seal is decent for those who want an EV sedan and don't like Tesla's minimalistic styling. The experience behind the wheel is way tamer than the all-wheel drive model. It doesn't feel underpowered, but we do wish it had more oomph. This was especially evident as we climbed out of Mexico City's surrounding mountains on the way to Cuernavaca, about 50 miles south of the capital. It was still competent in terms of speed, but it just didn't feel as quick as the dual motor. Like most EVs, the battery is located under the floor, delivering a low center of gravity and allowing you to take on corners with more confidence. The Seal's body roll is minimal, but the car's suspension setup also keeps vibrations inside the cabin to a minimum. Despite Mexico City's poorly maintained roads, the Seal went over poor pavement without much disruption. One of the things we wish it improved on is the steering, as it didn't feel stiff enough for a sports sedan. However, plenty of drivers will be happy with the way it's tailored. Our biggest annoyance was the constant beeping from the driver assistance system. The car would beep at us every time the speed limit changed or when we got close to the lane divider. It wasn't a gentle beep, either. It reminded us of Subaru's EyeSight system, which also beeps at the driver even for wearing sunglasses. We ended up shutting off all the ADAS during most of our drive, as the beeping was too much. We didn't have a chance to do a charging test, but BYD says it takes about 30 minutes to charge the battery from 30 to 80% using a 150 kilowatt charger. Tesla still has a big advantage in this department, and with its own supercharger network, many buyers prefer the American brand for this convenience. The Seal RWD starts at 778,800 Mexican pesos, the equivalent of $45,270 at today's exchange rates, while the AWD starts at 888,800 Mexican pesos, or $51,670. That makes it cheaper than the Model 3 in Mexico, but more expensive than the Model 3 in the US. But if it were our money, we'd go with the Seal AWD, despite the very short time we were able to spend with it, as we enjoyed the driving experience and were satisfied with the fit and finish. For now, though, the Seal will have to stay firmly on the forbidden fruit list until BYD decides US sales are worth going after.